Hi everyone, this is Nicole Struthers. I'm going to cover a spleen prosection with you if we received a splenectomy for trauma or laceration. So we have an animal spleen here to represent our splenectomy. These are a lot larger in comparison to human specimens, but the anatomy and the gross appearance of the animal spleen is very, very similar. So this is what we're going to use to do our spleen prosection. So the first thing that we'll do when we're grossing our splenectomy is we'll weigh the specimen. So it's 228 grams. Then we'll measure our specimen in 3D. So we have .8 by 7.8 by 2.5 centimeter splenectomy. So once we've given our overall dimensions, then we'll go into describing our capsular surface. So receiving a splenectomy for trauma or for a laceration, really the only thing we're trying to document is our capsular surface and anything that we see here. On our serial sections for our cut surface, we're not expecting to see anything because we're just receiving this for trauma. So if this were the specimen that we received, taking a gross photo at this point would be really helpful, especially if this was for a medical legal case. So our capsular surface has this laceration. So we'll give a description of our laceration. This laceration will measure in 2D. So it is 14.3 by 1.2 centimeters and is a linear defect with smooth borders. So often in trauma cases, it will be very jagged and irregular. This was made by myself. So it is a very linear laceration. So the remaining capsular surface is tan red to tan brown, smooth and glistening, and there's nothing here. There's no puckering or anything like that, no adhesions. And then on our opposing side, we have our attached adipose tissue, which we'll come back to shortly to look for lymph nodes. So after we've given our capsular description, then we can go ahead and serially section our specimen perpendicular to the long axis. So with the spleens, you don't need to completely section through. You can red loaf and kind of bookend your specimen. So we're just going to continue sectioning through here. So like I said, with a spleen for trauma, we're not expecting to see anything on the cut surface, no lesions or anything like that, unless there is something that is not expected. So generally, the cut surface is just going to be dark tan red, soft, and unremarkable. There might be some areas of hemorrhage that you can document, but otherwise it's just going to look grossly normal. So now that we've serially sectioned, we can sift through here and make sure there's no lesions. This looks totally normal. This is exactly what human spleen would look like grossly. So there's nothing in here. There's really no differentiation in the red and white pulp in this specimen, and that is totally normal. So our cut surface is dark tan red, smooth, soft, and glistening. So taking sections for the spleen, there's really not a whole lot that we have to do for a laceration case. The main thing that we need to document is this linear capsular defect that we had from the trauma. So the way that we do that is we can we'll choose a section over here. I'm going to use my scissors. So what we'll do is we'll cut out a section where we have normal, uninvolved or uninterrupted capsule on both sides of our laceration. So we'll be able to see the defect, normal parenchyma underneath it, and then the disruption in the capsule here. So this section is a little thick, so we want to thin that out. And then this will be my cassette A1, because this is the reason that we have the specimen, so I like to submit that in cassette A1. So then, since we didn't see anything else in our specimen, we'll just submit a cassette of uninvolved parenchyma. So I will take a section from over here, and I like to make sure I include capsule and parenchyma so they can see what normal looks like. And since this spleen is pretty thin, I'll take another section from over here to fill our cassette and give the pathologist a nice representative of the specimen. Okay, so we have our laceration to uninvolved capsule, then we have uninvolved splenic parenchyma and capsule. So then our last thing that we'll need to do is look at our attached adipose tissue for any lymph nodes. So the spleen, there's usually not going to be too many lymph nodes at the hilum, but in this specimen I can see one right away. I have one right here. And then you can just kind of palpate through and see if there's anything else. I'm not feeling or seeing anything throughout here. And you'll be able to practice this in lab. Here's one more right here. So remember that the lymph nodes are going to live at the hilum, and they're also going to live by the vasculature. So now we have these two lymph nodes, so what we'll do is we'll measure these in 3D and submit them entirely. So I have two tan, red to tan, brown possible lymph nodes that measure 0.8 by 0.3 by 0.2 centimeters and 1.5 by 0.8 by 0.4 centimeters. So this lymph node is small enough. I'm going to submit it intact. And then this lymph node is a little thick, so I would want to bisect this lymph node, and then we would submit this entirely here. So for our cassette summary, we have cassette A1 is capsular defect with uninvolved parenchyma and capsule. A2 is uninvolved splenic parenchyma and capsule. A3 is one intact possible lymph node candidate, and A4 is one bisected possible lymph node candidate. And that's all there is to a spleen for trauma. You will practice one of these in lab. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.